Welcome to Extra Time, everybody. I'm your host, Greg Lawless, alongside Shep Messing, as always. Act 1, the defense does not rest. It was a wild and woolly weekend in MLS. Real Salt Lake hit New England up for 6 goals, all in the second half, actually. Los Angeles got another late draw thanks to your man crush, Landon Donovan. And Toronto lost a coach when John Carver resigned. But then they went out and they beat Kansas City and took top spot in the East. What are your thoughts on Carver's resignation?
Well, unbelievable story up in Toronto, and I'm going to miss John Carver.
Yeah.
Very colorful, very controversial, certainly passionate, but from the looks of things, Toronto, the team, is not missing a beat. They look good.
Yeah, they did. And Carver sort of said he was a little frustrated with some of the things about MLS, and that was one of his reasons. You know, is that a fair assessment on Carver's part, let's say? And also, you know, every coach has to deal with the same problems, right?
Yeah, there are a lot of different issues you hear about. Some talk about his health, you know, not confirmed. Talk about frustration.
Maybe going back to Newcastle with Shearer there and all that.
Alan Shearer, his buddy back at Newcastle. John Carver was good. I'm happy that he was here, but again, I don't think Toronto, the club, is going to miss a beat. Mo Johnston knows what he's doing, and I think he's put together a very good team.
Well, he does, and they actually played well this weekend. And on the field, there were lots of people that played well, particularly the defenders. Not necessarily the defense. I mean, it was 6-0 for Real Salt Lake, but the defenders. So, Shep, we've looked at the goalkeepers. We've looked at some of the strike pairs out there. But how about today we look at some of the defenders and what they've done? What impressed you most about this?
Well, I love defenders, first of all.
Who doesn't?
You were a defender,
I was.
Former goalkeeper,
Right.
and oftentimes, you know it, Greg, the defender can dictate the way the game goes. He's got to be cerebral. He's got to be tough at the back. Very often, he's the guy unmarked that can get forward on a set piece, get a very important goal.
Well, we'll start with a defender who was not very cerebral. Of all the guys that usurped the headlines this past weekend, it was Carlos Johnson. In the second minute against Kansas City, he gets a red card, his second red card in 2 starts, the earliest red card in MLS history, and the penalty kick that ensued ended up being the difference in a 1-0 loss for the Red Bulls.
Greg, what a crazy play. And
Yeah.
if you're Carlos Johnson, you really have to wonder, what am I doing wrong? Josh Wolf actually underpassed the ball. Hercules Gomez streaking into the box. That first touch of Carlos Johnson, the game had just started. Bad first touch, takes him down. Definitely a PK. The red card, I think the ref could have gone either way.
Well, we were talking about that, and obviously in the spirit of the game, this sending off really hurt the rest of the game. It wasn't the same. They got the goal on the PK. If he had given a yellow card instead of a red, do you think anybody would have complained too much?
Greg, you made a good argument because, first of all, when you look at it, clear foul in the box, clearly denies the goal-scoring opportunity.
Definitely technically he does that.
Right. So technically in the rule book, the referee makes the right call. But the final wording in FIFA's rule book, and it applies all over the world, forget all the rules we just gave you. The spirit of the game is the most important thing. So I think you're right. Nobody would have objected. Penalty kick, second minute of the game. Don't have to give the red card.
Well, you brought up a good point. I mean, speaking of the spirit of the game, it was, you know, in Colorado, Todd Donovan of the Los Angeles Galaxy, he actually benefited from a referee taking the spirit of the game into the mind. Todd Donovan goes in for a tackle on Omar Cummings, and it looks like he's denied Cummings a clear scoring opportunity. Referee Alex Proust shows him a straight red card, and then he rescinds it. What are your thoughts on this whole play?
Well, great job by Alex Proust, because it certainly looks like a foul at the edge of the area. Definitely denies a clear goal scoring opportunity. We have the benefit of replays, though. When we kept looking at replays, you and I didn't even see a foul, but Alex Proust did the right thing. And he pulled up the red, but then communication with the referee's assistant. In the end, he got it right. I think that's what matters.
Well, if you see the replay and really look at it almost frame by frame, you can actually see that Donovan's foot gets the ball first, and then he follows through with a slide tackle. He's not coming in from behind, so it's not that. It's outside the box anyway. So I think that they made the right call in that one. Now, a red card that wasn't rescinded ended up having an impact in Columbus, and you and I will argue a little bit about whether it should have been rescinded or given in the first place. The Crew entered their match with the Chicago Fire winless on the season, but it was a defender, just like it seems like everyone else this week, right? Chad Marshall, who helped them get their mojo back, at least for a little while. Last year's Defender of the Year scored a goal, and the Crew looked set to cruise to their first victory of the season until Gino Padula got a red card. What are your thoughts on his red card coming in on Cuauhtemoc Blanco from behind?
Well, again, easy for us in the booth to look at the replays and analyze it. If it's any other player but Blanco, There's no card.
Really?
Is that a red card? I don't think there's any way in the world that's excessive force or violence. Yes, a yellow card I can understand. I don't think that's any way. There should have been a red card, and I'd argue that if it were not Blanco, it would not have been a red card.
Yeah, that's a good point, because he actually doesn't connect with the foot. Now, I know that the referees have been told to watch out, especially for that boot up
yep.
when you're coming in with the studs up, but he doesn't necessarily jump into it. He goes for the ball, and he's not trying to play the man. So I think I agree with you that it shouldn't have been a red card. And unfortunate for Columbus, terrific for Chicago, because last week the Fire gave away a 2-0 lead at home. This week they turned the tables. Chicago roared back, led by, yes, another defender. Of course, it was Gonzalo Segares who had a great goal to get the equalizer very late in the game.
Well, if you're Columbus, you have to be sick about this game. Chris Rolfe keeps that ball alive in traffic in the penalty area, slips it over to a defender, Segares. Yeah. He places it perfectly. Brian McBride got the first goal to get them back in the game. If you're Columbus, you're sick about this game. Could turn their season even in a worse direction.
Well, they're still winless, and arguably a little bit earlier in the game, Chad Marshall should have put it away with a header from about the 6-yard box, and they need that killer instinct, don't they?
Well, you and I discussed it though. Right. 2-0 at home. You should not need a third goal. You've got to close that game out. If you're Columbus, you have to get a win.
Good point. Well, Salt Lake got the third goal, plus the fourth goal, the fifth goal, and the sixth goal. New England's defense was lit up for 6 in the second half against RSL out at Rio Tinto. And, of course, it was a defender, Jamison Olave, that started the barrage, knocking in a header on a corner kick. And then New England's defense just collapsed after that.
Well, it's a highlight show really for Salt Lake in the second half. Olave, the Colombian central defender, he has shown that he's very adept at finding the seam, getting forward on the corner kick, gets the goal, and then the one to Mathis, Morales, he looks up, he pings the ball to him. You can't hit a ball any better than that.
Premature prediction, goal of the year?
I love that goal. So, yeah, right now, goal of the year.
It was pretty impressive. And, New England going down 6-0, their first loss on the season, actually. As Brian Dunseth, the announcer for RSL, said, better to lose one game 6-0 than to lose 6 games 1-0. It's tough out there in Salt Lake with the altitude, but RSL's midfield is really impressive when you look at Morales. Very skillful. Beckerman doing a lot of work. Will Johnson running all over, and the rejuvenated Mathis.
Yeah, they're a very good team. They're talented. Salt Lake, they do have the advantage in altitude. Brian Dunseth, that's a very good comment. Yep. New England, I've been waiting for them to fall apart all year. They've surprised me. They fell apart in the second half.
And it was led by Clint Mathis. That's right, Cletus is back. An old geezer getting it done, which is the topic for Wednesday's show.